Ford Mondeo 2 litre diesel Peugeot engine. Here's a little piece of advice for you, and I've seen this time and time again. If you don't have your oil changes done at the correct intervals, or you simply can't be bothered to replace your engine oil, there is quite a high possibility that your timing chain in your cylinder head can become very noisy. It will be stretched and worn due to the fact that engine oil is not lubricating it properly anymore. The funny thing is, I'm actually trying to be serious now. I really can't emphasize how important it is to have the correct engine oil in these diesel engines and to have it replaced at the correct interval. If you do one thing to your car, have your oil changed and make sure you put the specific correct grade oil in your engine. When these little top timing chains wear out, it's going to cost you a damn sight more than a bloody oil change. All I'm going to do is show you where the chain is and how it times up. So I've got to go out into the shed. You know, I kind of get it. This is boring for me just as much as it is for you. I'm not exactly doing cartwheels across the floor at a mention of a Mondeo timing chain. Yeah, they can't all be winners, can they? And besides, I don't exactly see people queuing up wanting to talk about Mondeo 2 litre timing chains. So I may as well just get it done now, then we can all move the frig on. I'm going to focus primarily on the chain. This is a dud engine and most of the stuff has been stripped off. So obviously things like your EGR valve would have to be disconnected, your air intake would have to be disconnected, the brake vacuum pump, which would go here, needs to come off, and your high pressure fuel pump will need to be removed. There will be a pipe that runs down the back of the engine, which will be clipped on in a few places. 4mm Allen key, which is your camshaft position sensor. Rip that out and you can remove your sensor. This would be a good point to fit a new cam belt. However, if you're going to reuse the old cam belt, you only have to remove the top timing belt cover. Just briefly, you would turn your crankshaft in a clockwise direction until this little hole here in your camshaft sprocket is around about the 4 o'clock position. At that point, you'd insert your flywheel locking pin, and as you turn your crankshaft slowly, it would dog in. That's your flywheel locked. Now you should be able to insert your timing pin in your camshaft sprocket. Loosen off your cam belt tensioner and then you can just pull your cam belt off. You will have to remove your fuel injectors and your fuel rail. And there's about 21 odd 10mm bolts you're going to have to remove. Some of them are different lengths, so take note. This manifold is pressed into your camshaft carrier with O-rings. So you're going to need to be very gentle with a lever so you don't crack the plastic. And then the whole assembly will just lift off. You see the O-ring where the manifold presses into the cylinder head? Now we can see our timing chain. The chain tensioner is held down by 3 4mm Allen key bolts. There is a spring inside this tensioner, so it will try and lift itself up when you remove the last bolt. You see, all you've got is a nylon guide the chain's going to run on and a plunger with a spring on the other end. And that will obviously all squash into there. And that tensioner is fed with oil pressure through a hole in the cylinder head. By removing the camshafts, you will need to replace the oil seal behind this sprocket. So we're going to undo this 16mm bolt. And obviously your timing pin can come out. This sprocket will literally just more or less fall off now. You will notice there's a built-in woodruff key on the back of the sprocket, which dogs into a cutout on the exhaust camshaft. So the good news is your camshaft sprocket will only fit back on your camshaft in one fixed position. We now need to unbolt this entire camshaft carrier. Jesus Christ, there's 26 8mm bolts holding this cam carrier down. Just a piece of information here, when you're undoing all these 8mm bolts holding this camshaft carrier down, you would generally loosen the outer bolts first, just a little bit, and then work your way into the middle before taking them all out. You'll probably find that once all them 8mm bolts have been removed, the carrier is still stuck down. So you're just going to have to be gentle where you prise it and try and jab it. That's it, we're loose. You see that went with quite a pop because they're quite tightly stuck down, and this whole carrier can now be lifted clean off. You can now remove your camshaft oil seal, and you can literally just lift both camshafts clean out of the cylinder head now. Just out of interest, here on Auto Data, you'll see that the timing chain has two different coloured links compared to the rest of the chain. These discoloured links will line up with dots on your sprockets. And just note that the exhaust camshaft link is one notch off to the left, where the inlet camshaft is straight up. So if you can see the little dot on our inlet camshaft just there, we move across to our exhaust camshaft, there's another little dot, and on our timing chain you'll see the discoloured link, one there and one there, which are going to line up with the dots on our camshaft sprockets. So all I have to do now is fit this chain back onto our sprockets, lining the different coloured links up with the dots. And I can tell you now that discoloured link there is now lined up with the dot on the sprocket, and the same for our inlet sprocket. Aha! You know the title of this video up there, it kind of says timing chain replacement. Well, that's not technically true. Okay, I lied. I'm not actually replacing the chain. Bite me. Yeah, the truth of the matter is I don't actually have a new chain to fit onto this car. Why would I anyway? It's a dud engine, for God's sake. I am actually just showing how this little timing chain times up and where it sits in the Mondeo universe. Yes, indeed. Right then, you can literally just pick this up as an assembly and fit it back onto the car. I just wanted to show you this hydraulic tappet which will sit in your cylinder head, how it's clipped onto the rocker. Obviously, before you put the camshafts back in, you'll want to make sure that the hydraulic tappets and the rockers are all in position. But because the rockers are attached to the tappets, there's very little chance of them coming out of place. And obviously you'd clean up all the surfaces with a good degreaser. Underneath the timing chain, you have another nylon guide, and that will just sit in the bottom of the cylinder head. Right, I'll just pop our camshafts back in. After your camshafts are laid back in the cylinder head, just note that the inlet camshaft, the dot with the discoloured link, is facing the 12 o'clock position, and your exhaust camshaft, the dot with the discoloured link, will be facing the 11 o'clock position. Make sure you put a bit of engine oil on your camshaft journals and lobes before you put the top cover back on. This particular engine has a gasket that goes in the middle where the injectors would go through. You will need to put some sealant between the camshaft carrier and the cylinder head. And now we can pop our camshaft carrier back on top of the camshafts. Just remember, when bolting all these screws down, you'll generally start from the centre ones and work your way out. If you go to the trouble of torquing these 8mm bolts down, they're done in two stages, 5 Newton meters and then 10 Newton meters. And now we can pop our tensioner back on. You'll have to push it down well because it's under some spring pressure. And don't forget to fit a new exhaust camshaft oil seal. You can now align your camshaft sprocket woodruff key back up with the cutout on your exhaust camshaft and pop your sprocket bolt back in. Your timing pin should now fit back into your camshaft sprocket. If it doesn't, you can turn it either way a little bit until it dogs in, like that. If you want to torque this centre camshaft sprocket bolt up, it's 20 Newton meters plus 60 degrees. Right, and pop your camshaft belt back on. You'd obviously now retension your cam belt, remove the timing pin from your camshaft sprocket and remove your flywheel timing pin. You would then turn your engine over 2 full revolutions by hand and make sure that your crankshaft and your camshaft timing pins both go back in the holes so that everything is lined up properly. And then you just got the task of bolting everything else back together. How bloody annoying. But put it this way, if you change your engine oil at the correct time with the correct grade oil, your car will be in the scrap yard before that chain wears out. All I've really got to say now, happy timing chains. Have a smiley day. Yeah, here. See ya.